Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Kona Ice. Kona Ice is a shaved ice truck that brings a one-of-a-kind tropical experience to you. Guests can flavor their own Kona Ice on our signature flavor wave, dance to our island music tunes, and enjoy a nutritious and delicious treat. Contact Jeremy and Marissa at 352-403-0515. Don't forget to follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Pat's Taps at Catfish Johnny's. Pat's Taps is Lake Penosofsky's newest tap room, offering 14 rotating craft beers on tap. We also offer bottled domestic beers, seltzers, ciders, and wine, as well as a variety of appetizers and pub. Our family-friendly tap room is a great place to come hang out and enjoy some one-of-a-kind craft beer. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or the Untapped app. Is the exterior of your home or business covered in dirt, mildew, or mold? Driveway or walkway stained? Pressure King can make your siding, deck, vents, and concrete look new again with no damage. Pressure King has cleaned the exterior of houses and businesses all over Sumter County area. Usually it takes less than a day and costs less than you would expect. Call AJ at 352-457-7209. Welcome back to another edition of the Goblay Show. I'm your host, Billy Goble, and today we have a special guest. I have actually known her for quite some time. Heck of a softball player, and we even kind of work for the same industry with Kona Ice. Sometimes we haven't worked together yet, but that's coming soon. So I want to welcome to the show Miss Zoe Riley. Zoe, welcome to the show, Zoe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, when I asked you to do this, what were your thoughts? Like, were you excited about doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to talk softball.
Yeah. Because
sometimes I feel like I'm just talking to a wall.
Yeah.
When I talk about softball, because, it runs through my mind 24/7. There's a lot to think about. It's been over a year since I've played.
Yeah.
So, all I do is think about softball. So I'm really excited to talk about it.
Good. All right. Well, let's, as always, let's go back and we'll do a little background bio for you. And let's go back to when you were young and or younger, I would say. And how did you get into softball? How was this? Was this something that you just saw and loved and picked up right away? And you're like, I want to try that. What were your thoughts?
Well, first thing I think every kid starts out with is t-ball. Yeah. I played t-ball at Webster, and then I got into baseball until I was like probably 8 or 9, and my dad was like, you're getting a little older, it's time for you to change to a girl-dominant sport. He basically told me, like, it's hard for a girl to make a career out of baseball. And I was like, oh, I'm a tomboy. Like, baseball is my thing. I'm not quitting that.
Yeah.
And he was like, I think it's time to switch over to softball. So I played 8 and under softball at Bushnell, Kenny Dixon. And at first I was like, oh, this is for girls. This is not for me. Because I thought I was a tomboy. I played with boys my whole life. So That's all I knew.
Right.
And I played in the 8U division, and then I got the opportunity to go up to like 10s and 12s. So I got like a little more experience, and then it took off from there.
Awesome.
I didn't fall in love with it at first, though, because I was like, this is such a girly sport. I'm not a girly girl. Softball's like when you're younger, you have the bows and like all the girly stuff, and I just didn't like it. I was like, not for me.
I got the opportunity to coach quite a few softball teams, and it's a big transition. Coaching. I started coaching t-ball, and you had a couple, maybe 2 or 3 girls on the team, and then predominantly boys, and then you got up and it was like 7-8 group, and then 9 and 10 or 11, whatever it is, and then went over to softball, and oh my gosh, 7 and 8 year old softball. It's like it's different. I'll say that it's one of those things where you're just like, especially if you don't know they're two different games.
Oh yeah.
Even though they are similar, they have a lot of similarities. But there are some things you're like, oh, I didn't know I could do that here, or that would never work in baseball, or that would never work in softball. Going from either one. But I had a lot of fun, and like you said, transition. It was crazy. I mean, you're talking about learning how to pitch. I still don't know how you guys pitch the ball like that. It's crazy how the mechanics.
Oh yeah, and they say it's more natural to go underhand than it is overhand.
Yes, it is.
And it saves your arm a lot more. So I think that's why, there's a pitch count baseball and there's not in softball.
Right.
Just those different dynamics of the game that have like a lot of separation.
Right.
Which is so strange because you think like overhand's more natural. No, it's like the underhand movement is a lot more natural and it saves your arm a lot more, which is crazy.
Right. And that way you don't have like you said, the pitch count. You got a kid that'll pitch one night and then 2 nights later he can pitch again. Softball, you can pitch every game if you have to.
A lot of people do that. Yes. A lot of girls, the older you get, I think the more dominant it is. Like a pitcher, she'll go 3 games in a row.
Oh, wow.
And she's icing her arm at the hotel that night, and the next day she wakes up and pitches 3 more games.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Just get up and do it again. I mean, I think it's awesome. And I loved I got to watch Kirsty play a lot, and I've been to a couple of the high school games. I think it's like I said, it's different, and it's a good way. I think it's more exciting than baseball.
Oh yeah, baseball is like way slower, but now they have the pitch clock, so it makes it a little quicker.
It does make it a little bit quicker. You better be ready. The batter better be ready because the pitcher is going to pitch the ball whether you're ready or not. So, so you played t-ball, and then you played you got into softball. Do you remember who you played for, when you were a kid?
Okay, so when I was younger, 8U, so around 8 or 9, that was the age when I first went into it, and I made the all-star team at Kenny Dixon, and I played with Deani, I played with Carson Hogan, Rylan Moffett. I played with all of them. So I think Labrica was one of my coaches.
Oh, Labrica.
Oh, yeah. She was one of the coaches. Yep, she was one of the coaches. I think my dad helped, but I never liked the father-daughter coaching situation. Yeah. Even when I was younger, I just knew, we weren't going to get along on the field. You're meant to be off the field and talk to me when we get in the car. So
this conversation stops right here at the dugout.
At the dugout, yes. So I remember playing with them. I was the girl with the short, my mom said it was so bad when I was younger that I didn't like to put my hair in a ponytail. So I asked her to cut it into a bob. So I was that girl on the softball field with her hair down and her face all sweaty. And I just remember having a lot of fun then because, it was easy. It was just playing softball with your friends.
Yep.
I loved it. And then I can't remember who else was the coach, but I remember loving it. I fell in love with it after the All-Star season because during the season it was a little rocky for me. I was like, this isn't it. Right. I was still in the transition. But All-Stars, it was awesome. Right. I loved it.
I'm glad you brought that up because about the having fun part because I've said this on here before, and I've seen coaches ask their players to go back and remember when they had fun. That's just what it's all about, and that's a key part of your success. Not only that, but your love for the game, And I think it's a vital piece to be successful. You have to want to do it. If you don't want to be there, you're not going to be successful. You don't want to be out there, put in the work, and it's one of those things you need to remind yourself, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
So did you play middle school?
I did play in middle school. Middle school, I had Coach Grant, and I also had Dieter Kader.
Okay.
Those are my 2 coaches in middle school. Middle school was kind of crazy. It was I was one of the more skilled in softball, maybe not athletically because there was a lot of good athletes in my grade, but
Right.
softball-wise, I was definitely more skilled. So I would go back and forth between pitching and catching.
Gotcha.
And I'm left-handed. So
Gotcha.
it's a little difficult for me to catch because I'm,
Yeah.
it's just not, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. But I had to do what was best for the team. So I was completely fine with it.
Right.
But I went back and forth, pitching and catching. Haley Kadur was a pitcher too.
Okay.
So if she wasn't pitching, she was catching for me. And
Right.
if I wasn't pitching, I was catching for her.
Right.
So that's kind of how it went.
That's cool. You'll have like a little tag team
Yes.
type deal. That's cool. And that builds a relationship and a bond between two people that you guys
Yes.
can count on each other when you need them most. And if she needs you to perform when you're not performing or vice versa, that helps, means a lot.
Yeah, because in the middle of an inning, if one of us wasn't doing good, we would just be like, time, we want to switch. And we'd
Right.
switch right then and there. And it kind of followed all the way through because
Yeah.
when I got to the high school my freshman year, we did the same thing on JV.
So speaking of that, what your freshman year, what was a transition from middle school to, because I always say this, like middle school, I don't know why. I mean, obviously it's hard to schedule the games, but you have like 12 games total?
Not
maybe?
many,
Not
yeah.
many. And it's like just when you start to get your groove, the season's over with, and there's
Yeah.
no playoff or anything.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. To me, it would be like, well, we get to play more games now.
Yeah. I think for middle school, maybe it's just a little more difficult to get girls actually that want to play
Right.
because there's like a smaller population of kids.
Right.
But the transition between middle school and high school wasn't very much different because I played JV the first half of my freshman year. And then after JV season was over, I moved up to varsity.
Right.
So it was kind of like I played a few games and then the season was over, but then I got asked to move up to varsity, which was great. It was amazing because I had more opportunity to play.
Right.
So I guess the transitions really, you see the transition between like JV and varsity.
Gotcha.
That's when you see like the big transition because the pitching's like a lot better,
Oh, yeah.
has more speed.
Yep.
There's a lot more great hitters, so you're going to get more action in the field, which
Right.
is awesome. But
Right.
I mean, I didn't get much of that because I had Marissa as a pitcher. So, she was striking everybody out, and
Yeah.
I'm just standing there waiting for a ball to come to me. But
You're going to be there for a while. Yeah. You're
Yes.
not going to be up there very long, but you're going to be.
Yes.
It's going to be a while before she throws you the ball.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. What was your so you did catch in high school as well, right?
Yes, just my freshman year.
Just your freshman. Did you play in the outfield?
Yes, I played outfield my freshman year when I moved up to varsity. So
Gotcha.
I played whenever I was in those last 5 or 6 games, and then the postseason I played outfield. And then I also played outfield my sophomore year. And then my junior year is when I actually got to play my position that I played my whole life, first base.
Right.
But outfield, I loved it.
Yeah.
Outfield was amazing. I just
yeah.
felt more free. It was great. And I had the best outfield group ever. It was me, Haley Kidder, and Tanner Spinagle.
Oh yeah.
We were
It's good.
like
It's a good group.
killing it. Nothing touched the grass. Everybody was getting out. It was awesome.
Do you remember your first home run that you hit? Did you hit a home
Yeah.
run?
I was in travel softball. I was maybe 12
Yeah.
or 13. I was using a one-piece bat. So if you hit a ball off a one-piece bat in the wrong spot, your hands are on fire.
Yeah. Jarring.
So I remember I was up and I just swung the bat and I just kept running because I didn't think it was going over. And they're like, slow down, Zoe, you just hit it over the fence. Because I'd never hit one over the fence before.
Well, and you're not really supposed to look at the ball either.
Oh, no.
You're supposed to just go.
Yes, exactly.
That's why you have coaches. They'll tell you.
Yeah, my first home run was like dead center. But I didn't think it was going over. So I was like running full speed. And my coach at third was like, Zoe, slow down. You hit it over the fence.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, sorry.
I just saw this thing in, and this is baseball, but you're talking about dead center. There's a high school out in Oklahoma, and I think it's like Guthrie, Oklahoma. It's just a random post I saw on Facebook. And so their baseball field, picture the diamond going out there, it's right field and left field. And then at center, their football field is connected. So when there's no game, it looks like, oh wow, center field, that's that's a gap right there because it's another 45 yards or 50 yards that way. But my brother said he's played there, and because he's out in Oklahoma, and he said they put construction fence at like the 25-yard line because it's literally the field comes in. It's kind of like we played PK Young up in Gainesville. It's the same way.
Okay, yeah.
It's like they move these gates, and the field gets bigger, and it's like you're like, oh wow, this is so weird.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've seen a few fields like that where they're kind of connected.
Yeah, it's like they don't.
And
have
then the
space.
lines kind of like the lines are exactly the same and stuff. Yeah, I've seen that before a few times.
So you make varsity, and let's see. Do you remember any like? Do you have a favorite game? I asked Kirsty. She has like a game that stood out her freshman year. You know, you're just now getting into varsity, and it's a big. I mean, you're at the top now.
Yeah.
You're on varsity, and was there a game where you're like, wow, like you kind of settled in? You're like, I can do this.
I mean, my freshman year, it's kind of hard for me to remember a certain game.
Right.
I just remember freshman year, we had a new coach. Noe was our coach.
Okay.
He didn't know much about softball. He just came in there and he's like, nobody wants to coach, I'll coach. He kind of stepped up for us girls, and like he was a leader for sure. He definitely was learning everything he could his first year, which was great. I mean, he trusted a lot of us girls to give him the right information, which was awesome. So I kind of remember those things. Like I remember being in the dugout with Noe and kind of talking to him back and forth, going about like a whole bunch of different things. So I felt like I kind of contributed in that way, helping out the team off the field, if that makes sense, which was very important to me.
Right.
And then I finally got the opportunity to hit. He was like, all right, Zoe, like in the 6th inning, he's like, I just want you to go up there and hit. I go up there and I hit a double, and he looks at me and he's like, oh, like you can actually hit? And I was like, yes, I can. I can kind of hit the ball.
I forgot to mention that.
Yes. So after that, I kind of was able to be the DH if they needed one, which was awesome. So I do remember getting a few like key hits, you know, and games here and there. But I think the most important thing was being off the field and being able to help the team while I was, you know, in the dugout, contributing in a way that wasn't on the field, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a very, very valuable asset to have someone that not only can lead on the field but off the field as well. And it was awesome that you helped out Coach Noe. That takes. I mean, first of all, he's smarter than. I mean, he's so smart. And I'm sure he didn't take him long to pick it up. But I get that because when you're like, okay, I'll do it. And then you're like, oh, my gosh. Like, I'm sure inside his mind he's like, did I do the right thing? Like, maybe I wasn't – maybe I didn't want to do this. You know what I mean? Like, you get that feeling sometimes when you go, oh, my gosh, I was trying to do something good and positive, and I don't know if I'm ready for this.
Yes.
But that's cool that you did help out and stuff. That's and that just shows your character, helping out when I'm sure everybody else did too. They just get, and also it's also really great when a coach will listen to a player and have that trust. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I got a lot riding on this.
Yes,
you're right. And when it does come in to play and it does work out, then that bond, that trust, it just grows. Yes,
because after that, he was my coach for the next 3 years. I had him my whole like high school career, which was awesome. Yep. And you got to think in his mind, all he's thinking is football. He's a football coach, so he's got football. Right. He's dealt with boys his like whole coaching. He hasn't really dealt with girls. Some situations are completely different when you're coaching girls and you're coaching boys. It's way different. We deal with things a lot differently, and it was just nice to see like him also become a really good softball coach over the years too, which was awesome because it's hard being a softball coach. I'm sure. It's definitely a challenge.
I'm sure.
Yes.
I'm sure that's something that you just don't transition into. You just either you got it or you don't.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You probably can, I guess, but going back to what you said about the difference. I hate to say there's a difference, but there is.
Yes.
With boys and girls. And what I mean by that is, like when I talked about earlier about coaching. I coached third base, and I'll never forget this girl Santana. She's at the bat, and she's swinging like it's a racket, like high.
Yes.
And I finally had, after 2 swings like that, I yelled out, Santana. She looks, and I go, and I didn't even get to say anything. Just that Santana. She goes, but I don't shut down on me. Let's just fix it. Yep. Don't swing high. I'm not mad at you, please. Not mad. Just don't swing at the high stuff. You're not gonna do anything with the high stuff. And I had to learn myself because, like you said, you're used to yelling at boys who are like, huh? And when they're out the other. The girls on the other side, they take it literally. Like, oh, he's really mad. And I wasn't mad. I was just like, okay, first of all, you can't hear me from third base. So I have to be louder than those other people. There are crowds into it. So there are things that you learn, and that's one of the things and that made me a better person. Because then you just, you develop a way to deal with different situations, and you don't always attack the same way, even though you think that's a simple part of it. You're just gonna, this is how I've done it, and this is how I'm gonna do it again. And that's not the case. Yes,
the approach is completely different.
Absolutely, just like at every at bat. It's totally different.
Well, yeah, that makes sense because, like, I don't know. It's just I know the approach coming up, coaching a boy sport and coaching a girl sport is just. It's uncomparable because girls, when you're coaching a girl, when you yell at them, they're never going to forget that. Like, it's just like they're never going to forget that time. They're going to be like, oh, that one time you yelled at me. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
They're never going to forget. Yeah. Boys, they just shake it off and they move on.
Yeah.
It's harder for girls. Like, they hold the grudges so hard.
I wasn't going to say that part, but...
They do. They never forget it because I'm the same way. Like, I never forget when my coach yells at me because... Yeah. I'm like, dang, I need to fix that because I never want him to yell at me like that again.
Yeah, when I worked in Orlando at Disney, they had a college program. There were 6 girls in a dorm that shared, and oh my gosh, petty stuff.
Oh yeah.
And it's like if the guys got into it, they'd have a fist fight and be like hugging each other after. Hey man, I'm sorry, man. the girls would be like, and you remember that time you didn't clean the kitchen? And you're like. I said I was sorry, like, but they never forget.
They never forget.
So it's hilarious. It's funny how there are big differences and similarities, but the differences are so far.
Yes.
But
far-fetched for sure.
Yeah. So high school, you got really good at softball, and let's say junior year. Let's skip your junior year. Did you have anybody offer you? Any colleges come look at you? Or
okay, so my sophomore year, actually, I kind of got to go back. Sophomore year and junior year is the most crucial years for recruiting. I was going through some things. I don't know what was going through my head. Just not the right things were going through my head. Right. My sophomore year, I decided to quit playing travel softball. And the only way you get recruited is playing travel softball.
Right, and I did not know that. Kersey told me that. I'm like, yes. I was always thinking that they come to your high school games. No, that's not how you do it. And I was like, oh, okay.
It's not the same. I guess high school softball isn't as competitive as other sports in high school. Like football is so competitive, and then the coaches, they want to come, but it's not as competitive in high school as it is in travel ball. So I think college coaches want to spend their time there where there's a lot more competitiveness and the atmosphere is just a lot different.
Not only that, it's not like football where they go and they see one guy. You know what I mean? Like, I get what you're saying. Like, so it's like, if they come to a high school, they're like, we know why you're here. The travel ball, they're like, we don't know who you're looking at.
Yep.
Because you have all that.
Yeah, and travel ball is like so many different teams. Like there's over 50 teams in one tournament. So this coach is able to look at over 100 girls.
That makes a lot of sense. I never really looked at it that way, but that does make sense. You're talking about those big tournaments. Mm-hmm. Why not go one place, a one-stop shop?
Yes.
Instead of going, I've got 4. Yeah, I mean, football, they do that all the time. I mean, it used to be really bad back in the day because, I mean, they'd have to go to this high school, and then I've got another high school down here, or I'm going to this game. I got a basketball game here. It's crazy.
Yeah, I guess it's similar to when football has like the combines, where it's like a whole bunch of kids from different schools come together, and a lot of the coaches are able to go there and watch them.
Yeah, that's as close as it gets. Or like the senior bowl or whatever it is, like an all-star game. The high school has an American. Well, I don't know if they still do or not, but I know Kiki went to the American Athletic. I think it was like Under Armour or Nike. Did it. One of the two. I can't remember. But yeah, that's a good way to look at it too.
Yes.
2 different sports, same way.
Yes, exactly. So my sophomore year, I don't know what I was thinking. I just was going through some things, so I decided I can't play softball right now. I need to just be to myself and get this stuff figured out. So I was just playing high school ball my sophomore and my junior year. Then junior year, after junior year, so during the summer of junior year, I was like, all right, it's time for me to play again, because a coach of mine, his name is Gary Kiefer, he reached out to me and he said, you have no choice, you're coming to play for this team. I got you a spot on this team, you're playing for this team. Okay. So it was kind of like no pressure. No pressure, but like you have no choice but to play for this team. So
Did you know this guy?
I didn't know the coach. I just knew Gary Kiefer. He was my old travel ball coach.
Okay, so and you didn't want to let someone down.
Yes.
Well. Yeah.
Because he seen a lot of potential in me. Okay. And he was like, I don't want to throw away your talent, type. That was kind of the deal. He was like, you have too much talent to be throwing it away. You need to focus on yourself.
Right. That's what I meant by that you know him. Because it's like, if you don't know someone, you're like, whatever. Mm-hmm. But if you know somebody, you're like, I don't want to.
Yes.
I don't want to let this guy down. Man.
Yes, he was my old travel coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, I don't know, it was a little difficult going into it. I mean, I went to the tryout. It was just some practice that they were having for the Clearwater Bullets. So it was like an hour, 15-minute drive for me. I went into it not wanting to play, obviously.
Right.
So I went into it. The coach was like, what's wrong with this girl? Like, because I did not do good in practice at all. Yeah. They were like, what's wrong with this girl? Like, she's not even swinging the bat hard. I was all in my head. And then he was like, we have a tournament this weekend. I would like you to come play for us. I went and played in the tournament. By the end of that tournament, I batted .500. Oh, wow. So I was doing aces at the plate. Yeah. And I played a little bit of first, played a little bit of outfield, and I was like, okay, I need to come back and play. And the coach approached me after the tournament, and he was like, I'm really glad you showed up this weekend because I was about to let you go. And I was like, I'm so glad I did too. I finally got back in my groove. It felt great, So that's where my recruiting started the summer after my junior year. And by that time, it's slim pickings. Like, there's not much left out there. Right. So I had to be realistic with myself. I was like, all right, what schools are still going to be able to recruit me and also give me what I'm needing to go to school? Because I didn't have a lot of money. Like, my parents didn't do Florida prepay. They didn't have any of that. Right. And I was good in school, but not smart enough to have like a full ride scholarship on academics, So I kind of had to look at what options for me were realistic. Because at this point, all the D1 schools were out of the picture. And the first school I think that talked to me was Flagler College. Okay. And I went there. They offered me a pretty good deal, but it wasn't good enough. Like, I'd still have to be paying money to go there. Right. And my parents were like, no. Like, we didn't spend all this money on travel softball for you not to get a full ride. That's kind of how it is.
Absolutely.
Like, my parents were spending hundreds of dollars, which I'm so grateful for. I'm so blessed that my parents were able to do that and give me those opportunities. But it's like, they were like, you played your whole life to get a scholarship.
Right. And of course you're like, but it's just like, I want to go. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, you didn't really see the, but yeah, that's good to have though. I mean, and Flagler, that's a great school.
Yes. Everyone told me that if I were to go there and I got my degree from there, everyone looks at it and like, oh, Flagler, yes, that's a great degree.
Yeah, their football team is still undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a great school.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. There's a shirt I used to have, or it was a hoodie or something that said still undefeated because they don't have
football.
Team.
Yeah, it sucks.
So a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. I'm like, yeah, still undefeated.
Yes, that's how it is for a lot of the D2 schools. They don't really have football or anything, which is, I mean, there's not really space for them to have a football team.
No, not in that area. Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Catfish Johnny's Restaurant, serving the Lake Pennsauken and surrounding areas since 1990. For the last 33 years, we have strived to serve great food at great prices and a friendly, casual atmosphere. If seafood isn't your thing, our burgers or wings are the best around. We have daily specials too. Check us out on Facebook or Instagram for more information. Central Screen Services LLC, in collaboration with Mask & Sons Incorporated. All screen services are available. We offer a variety of colors, durability, and sizes for all your screening needs. Pool areas, patios, and more. Call 352-603-4099 today for your free estimate. Proudly serving all of Citrus, Sumter, Hernando, Lake, and Pasco counties. To find out more, check them out on Facebook. Duto Realty is a homegrown business with an eye for getting the job done right. From football games to Sunday school and everything in between, these ladies care about our community and the people in it. Helping buyers and sellers in all of Florida with all types of transactions, including residential, commercial, farm, or vacant land. They do it all. They even offer auction services and sellouts to always get the job done right.
Yeah, and then I think that day I got offered from Flagler, the lady, the head coach, she said, you have a few days to make your decision. So I had a few days to make my decision. I was like, oh, okay. I just need to think about this. And my dad was really my biggest influence. He kind of was like, you need to explore your options. So I didn't call her back till a few days later. And I was like, hi, coach. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be able to take the offer. Thank you. It's very much appreciated. I'm just not able to take it. So then I was still like a bait on hook. I was still waiting for someone to come grab me, you know? And I got invited to a camp at Central Florida.
Okay.
And at this camp, all the JUCO schools, all the small like community colleges and state colleges come and they look at all these recruits. So I was there. I don't know what was in me that day, but I did great. It was awesome. And there was like 2 or 3 schools that were JUCOs interested in me. And I've always heard about JUCO my whole life.
Right.
Like I was always like, all right, I'm going to be JUCO bandit, like I'm going to go out and do this. So Florida Southwestern was one of them. Eastern Florida was another one. And then Central Florida and I think Seminole State. Those were the ones that were kind of interested in me. Okay. And Florida Southwestern was already a big like mouth dropper for me because they have a great program. They have a great softball field. They have their Suncoast Arena is beautiful. It's like an NBA stadium for the baseball or for the basketball team. So I was like, all right, I think I'm going to go here. So I went to their camp. And camps are very important during recruiting. That's one thing I would say. Like, if you're trying to get your name out there, if you're trying to get recruited, I'd say take those opportunities and go to those camps. And also, post on Twitter. Yeah. Post on Twitter. Twitter is like the biggest platform for recruiting. And I never knew that. My dad controlled my Twitter account. Yeah. Like, I didn't even have Twitter as a kid or like as a child growing up. In high school, I didn't have Twitter. My dad had my Twitter. Wow. Like, he posted all my things on there. That's where I got seen the most. So I go to this camp down in Fort Myers, and, it's a crazy story. It was like my official visit kind of, so I was able to stay with like a player, get the kind of dorm experience, like where they live and all that stuff. Next day comes around. It's the camp. I'm doing great. I think I'm doing great. I mean, I hit a triple. I was diving in the outfield. I was doing my thing. And then Coach Robert, he comes up to the group of girls and he's like, "Hey girls, thanks for coming out today. You guys were amazing. I just don't think you're the right fit for the team." And I look at my mom and I look at her and I'm like, "Mom, we're leaving here immediately. Like, I don't know what's going on." Because, when I got invited to go there, they were like...
Did he have the right girl? I mean...
So I was like, yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, when I got invited here, I was told, like, more than likely you would get offered a scholarship, so that's what I was expecting. But, you can't go in expecting anything, obviously, because softball just changes all the time. Right. And after the meeting, he nudges on my shoulder. He's like, "Zoe, I need you to come inside." And I was looking at my mom. I'm like, "Mom, I'm so mad. Like, I want to cry." I was like, this was my, like, school I wanted to go to, Yeah. And then I go inside and he's like, "Did Taylor tell you to come inside?" I was like, "No, she didn't tell me anything." He's like, "Well, I want to offer you a full ride." And I was like, oh. I was like, you literally had me, like, shaking in my boots over here because I thought you were saying, like, all these girls weren't a fit for your team,
Oh, bait and switch.
Yes. Yeah. I was freaking out.
Wow.
And that was before COVID happened. So, all that was great. I still had a full ride there. And I think that was the best decision I could have ever made. Because JUCO has 100% changed my perspective in sports. It has changed my outlook on, I guess, the division you play in. Because no matter where you play, it's always equal opportunity.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And, it was great. Like, I had the best 2 years playing at Florida Southwestern. Yeah. Probably, they were very competitive. They were very nitpicky. It was like a tight schedule I was on. I felt like I was at a D1 program, Right. I still had all the great experiences that I wanted to have going to college. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just...
that was Tampa, right?
Fort Myers.
Fort Myers, okay. When you said Suncoast Arena, I'm thinking of the one that, like, near South Florida, the old Sun Dome they used to have.
Oh, yes.
I thought it was something like that, but yeah, Fort Myers, it's
they have a Suncoast nice Credit Union.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Really, really nice area down there.
Yes, it was awesome. I loved it.
So before we get too much into that, what year did you graduate South Central High? 2020,
COVID year.
Oh, the COVID year.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I remember that. It rained.
It rained at graduation.
It rained a little bit.
Yes, it did rain. And it was COVID.
And it was like it was like a drive-through car wash.
Yes, it was. Not.
That year was like, man, I feel so bad. But you know what? In the grand scheme of things, I think that just made you guys, like, your class a little bit more special. I know it sucked. Obviously, everybody. Not even just seniors, but like look at the other things that year the kids didn't get to do. Like, 8th graders didn't get to do promotion, and 5th graders didn't do their graduation to go to middle school, and it was like everybody got robbed, obviously, and not trying to take away from the grand scheme of things. I know it was awful. But it's just, I felt bad for that class. Because to me, my graduation night it was special.
Like a core memory.
Yeah. You will never, ever forget Miss Cloud, who used to be there.
Mm-hmm.
She told us, she said, she told us 2 things that I'll never forget. And, she said we were all in the building, I believe it's the English building. We were all in the same building together. And she said, she got everybody's attention. She's like, "I want everybody to do me a favor. I want you to look to your left, and I want you to look to your right. And I want you to get a good look at everybody, because this is the last time you will all be together in the same building." And Like I was like looking around and like reality check, just bam.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, that is crazy. She also said that tonight would be like, besides you getting married and your kids being born, it's going to be one of the most important times of your life. And I absolutely agree with that. That's why I'm, you feel for the people that didn't get to do it, the way we always did it.
Like the tradition.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was like you were the first class to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way that's good. But in a way it's, who's to say the way you did it was the only way to do it? Y'all probably started something different. And the way that the world is now with videoing and stuff, I mean, when I graduated, you had to be there. I mean, we did have the closed circuit TV, but it wasn't like now. People could be at home now watching on YouTube.
Yep.
We didn't have that. You had to be in the lunchroom or the library. I do remember I had 2 extra tickets. I was out I was trying to scalp tickets. Like I've got 2.
Yes.
I got 2. Who needs 2?
Yeah, that was one thing I'm glad I didn't have to worry about tickets, because it was kind of just like a walkthrough, you know.
Absolutely.
Anyone could come.
Absolutely.
Which was awesome. And I'm definitely not going to forget it because it was so different.
Yeah, and then and they really tried to make it as special as they could.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And so I mean, that's the way you kind of look at it, You might have these expectations like this is what I had hoped it to be, or this is what I thought it was going to be. And it wasn't, so you're just like, you know what? We'll just make it our own thing. And I think that's special itself.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing to everyone, I think, was just walking across the stage and getting their diploma.
Absolutely,
and they made it happen.
That's a big goal for everybody.
Yes, 100%. Because, I mean, a small town, everybody wants to graduate high school. It's very important.
Right.
Because, like, my mom and dad didn't graduate high school. They both got a GED. I mean, I think it was important for me to graduate.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people feel that way as well.
And I understand different circumstances. Like we had a guy that his senior year, his dad got hurt. He had to go work for his family. There are circumstances out of your control, and he had to quit school. He had to do what he had to do for his family and provide. And to me, that just. Yeah, I did exactly what millions of people have done, but the fact that you stepped up and took care of your family was
right.
I mean, that's something special itself, So now you graduated. You decide that was your junior year. You said you got all the recruits, right? Or that recruiting trip
Yes. So
camp?
It was my junior year, but the summer after. So summer leading into my senior year was when I pretty much got all the looks and I got all, like, the offers and attention. It was very slow at first. I was getting a little worried. I was like, dang, this isn't what I expected. But I kind of, at the same time, was like, I haven't played for a year, so nobody knows who I am anymore.
Right.
I got to get my name out there. And we finally got a few schools to stick through, and it was awesome with Florida Southwestern. I took the offer when I went down there for the camp. The following week, I had a tournament, a D9 tournament, so at Disney.
Gotcha.
And I did not know my coach was going to be there. And luckily, right timing, perfect timing, right place, right time, I yoked a bomb over right field fence.
Oh, cool.
And my coach was there, and she looks at me, my assistant coach. She's like, I'm so glad you got recruited. I was like, me too. And then she handed me a hat, so it was like really official,
Yeah.
And
That's
that was a good memory. That was exciting because I was kind of in a hitting slump, and then all of a sudden I just like, bam, hit one. I mean, next at bat, I probably struck out, but the home run just felt great.
Well, you're always gonna try to swing for the fence to begin with, and yeah, I mean that's why you get to bat like 3 or 4 times a game.
Yes.
You strike out. That's what I try to tell our kids. I coached last year. That's 8 and 9 year old, 9 and 10-year-olds. And I would tell them, like, look, you strike out, who cares? It's all good. But they were so, like it was almost like the end of the world. I was like, you know how many times I've struck out?
Yes.
I mean, come on. I didn't cry. I'm like, we go back to the dugout and just try it again. It's like, it reminds me of how life is. You get up and you may not have a good day, but you get to do it again.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? There are multiple times you get to, each at bat is like you waking up.
Yeah, it's like a brand new opportunity.
Right, absolutely.
And you learn from the previous at bat.
Absolutely.
You're going to know what they're pitching you. I mean, obviously the pitcher is going to learn from you too. They're going to know what your weak pitch is, but you have to learn how to adjust and be able to hit that pitch.
Right.
Like, it's like vice versa. Like, the pitcher's learning something from you, but you're also learning something from the pitcher.
Right. There's a video. It's a parent from behind the plate, and I guess his son is pitching, and baseball. He's pitching, and he goes, what he says, he goes, hey, whatever the kid's name is, throw him the heater. and like the catcher turns back, and he's like, yeah, the heater. Kid winds up, throws it. Kid jacks it up.
Home run. I think I've seen it before.
Like, boom. And
yes.
And the dad goes, all right, don't throw him the heater.
Yes, I think I've seen that before. I just seen one yesterday, kind of similar. It was like, I think it was a major league team. Catcher gets the sign, and he gets the sign from the coach, and he's like,
oh, I have seen that.
Shakes his head.
I have seen that.
And then he throws the pitch, boom, home run. And I'm like, oh gosh.
He knew it.
Like he knew.
Mm-hmm. There's another video. It's hilarious. It's a pitcher. He's like got his glove, and he's looking at the catcher, and it's zoomed in on him, and he's like shakes it off, and then he goes, oh yeah, and then throws this ball. I don't remember what it was. Mm-hmm.
Home run.
See ya.
Yes.
And he's like, okay, well, it looked good on camera before the swing, at least.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, that's hilarious. I mean, he trusts his pitch, though.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like that classical tale, you live by the sword, die by the sword. If you got a nasty curveball or a fastball, and that's all you've got left,
throw it.
It's amazing.
It's a 50-50 chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of situations in games where they had an opportunity to win a game. Like my professional team is the Pirates. So in the 92 NLCS, this is they're one game away from winning. They go into the World Series, and they're up 2-0, and they got two guys on base, and pitcher has pitched the entire game, and they're like, they have this guy that can throw a knuckleball, Tim Wakefield. They didn't put him in. So, years later, they ended up losing the game. Years later, they asked the coach, Jim Leland, they said, why didn't you put somebody else in? He goes, that's all I had. When that's all you got, you stay with it. And it's like, that guy almost pitched the entire game. They finally took him out, but it was like, after it was too late,
Yep, too late.
Like, you're up 2-0. And you blew a 2-0 lead. Yeah,
and those are certain things, like scenarios and situations you can't even blame on the player.
No.
Because that's like bad coaching.
No, it's strategy. It's bad strategy.
Yes.
For one thing.
I mean, and sometimes coaches, they have 100% trust that their player is going to, dominate and do what they need to do. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. It's all like, it's just 50-50.
Yeah, and it's a lot of mind games, too. Like, Kirsty was talking about how Coach Walton, he would start one girl, and then, but the girl that everybody thought was starting wasn't going to be the starter. It was another girl, and then they would bring her in like late, or she pitched the next game or whatever. But it was like, you're like, okay, I can hit off this one girl, and then they're like, wait, who's that?
Someone brand new comes in.
Yeah, like what are they doing here? So it's definitely a mindset, like it's a mind game thing where they're like, you try to keep people on their toes, I don't know. It's different, and different strategies. How people, figure out different ways to take care of this bat, or this guy's a lefty, this guy's a righty, or this girl's a righty, this girl's a lefty. And then they go from, you know, you always have that moment like, what if? Why didn't we do this? But it's like you said, there's a lot of trust, and if I trust you enough, where I'm going to let you hold the reins per se, and it doesn't work out, I mean, I can't blame you.
Exactly.
It was my choice.
Exactly.
To do that.
Yes, exactly. And I guess that's just something that's really important to think, like, when you're out there playing or when you're up to bat at the plate, you got to be like, okay, if my coach trusts me, I need to trust myself.
Right. Absolutely. So you finally make it official and you sign.
Yes. So obviously my senior year was COVID.
Yeah.
How
short.
Yeah, everyone has their signing deal at the school. Like, I wasn't able to have that, but I was also fortunate enough that the softball team kind of, put together a little signing for me, because my senior year was rough. I was injured.
Yeah.
My first half of the season. I played one game, and then COVID hit. So, like, I had no senior season.
Wow.
So I wasn't able to play my whole senior year. And coming off a junior year, I had my 100th hit. So I was getting ready to, continue that.
Right.
And it was awesome, like, being able to have 100 hits in my high school career, but I just never got to further do it, which was okay.
Yeah, but that's a milestone itself,
Yeah. And my 100th hit was a bunt for hit.
Wow, you legged it out.
Yes, I did.
Wow, goodness.
I have it on video. My dad was so proud because I'm not very fast. But he was like, your 100th hit was a bunt for hit, Zoe. And I was like, hey.
It don't matter. It's a single.
Uh-huh.
You'll take it.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it was. Like, my senior year was rough, but I got to sign, and then, I had to find ways to, like, work out over the summer because COVID was so crazy.
Oh, yeah.
We were actually fortunate enough to play a few travel tournaments in Newberry at the turf fields they have.
Okay.
Which was awesome. Not many coaches were there, but it was just about getting reps in at that time before you go to school.
Listen, COVID itself, I haven't mentioned COVID on here at all, but it was, I was at work last week and we were mentioning it. We were talking about how different, it was, and it was just like, that first week, I had a friend of mine who was on a trip and he got back and it was like, it's like the world changed when he got, you come back and it's like, you can't do this, you can't do that. I'm not going to lie, the first couple of days I was like, wow, this is not good. I mean, like, obviously it's not good, but this is not, like, I actually felt a little panic.
Right.
And I was like, oh, when everybody's hitting the stores and everybody's grabbing toilet paper.
Everything sold out.
And nobody could go anywhere. And
all the restaurants were closed down.
Sports were closed down.
It was horrible.
Nothing.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Absolutely. It was something that you'll never, I don't know, as horrible as it was, it was like when I just got out of high school, we had 9/11. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where you're like, man, I'll never forget that day. And it's like, I know that was just a day, but it was just sheer terror. You didn't know what was going on. You would go. I remember going to my buddy's house and like watching it on TV and sitting with his family, and of course my family was at work. I had called in that day, like I just didn't go to work. I was at Disney, didn't go in that day. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, I got this gut-wrenching feeling in my stomach because they closed Disney like early that day. And I was like, oh my gosh, are they a threat? Like, are they going to, like, why are they? Yeah. Disney never shut down. Yeah. It didn't matter. I mean, before that and their existence, like 25, 30 years of existence before that, they never shut down. They have a tornado, they make people go underground. They don't mm-hmm. shut anything down. And, so that was scary, and it was just the unknown. You were just like, what's going to happen now? What's next? And I don't know. It's just, you could have a podcast itself about COVID.
Oh, yeah.
The things that we lost.
That you went through, experience.
And it's like, it's almost like, you don't want to forget the good times that you had before that. You know what I mean? It's like it totally changed the way we live life now.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But I also see some good things that came out of that. Not medically involved, but like the way we do some sports now, like we have, or the way we do. I mean, like this right here, podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
Podcasting was, it had been around. People, I think Joe Rogan started in like 2009 or 2008, and his like on his couch, but it didn't blow up till now. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Last few years, he's been doing it for a longer time. Is what I'm saying, but just like Tiger King, they were talking about Tiger King. How popular would that show have been if it wasn't the pandemic? Right. Did you ever watch that show?
No.
What?
Did not get into Tiger King.
Oh my gosh, Zoe? Are you kidding me?
I don't have TV at my house.
Oh my gosh. Get somebody's Netflix account.
Well, I have Netflix.
Get it on your phone.
It's just there's no service at my house, and there's no Wi-Fi, which is horrible.
Well, my goodness.
I have to find things to entertain myself.
You have 3 years to get on that. It's so good. You're talking about if you ever have a bad day, watch Tiger King.
Okay.
Because you go, man, I'm so sorry I even mentioned what I got going on. Like, it's crazy.
Really?
It's crazy.
Yeah, I've never watched it.
Oh, it's crazy. But it's like watching, per se, like they always say, watching a train wreck in slow motion.
Yeah.
You can't turn away from it. And, of course, the pandemic, you had nothing else going on, so you just binge watch that, bro. You're like sitting there, and you're like, all right, I'm already up to episode whatever, and
oh, yeah.
Asking people have they seen it, and some of them haven't, and that's all good.
I've never watched it.
No, it's totally bizarre. Like, if I could wrap it up in one word, it's just bizarre.
Well, I'll have to watch it.
Absolutely. It's almost like this can't be real. Mm-hmm. It's that bizarre. You're like, there's no way. There's no way that person and that person exists or this happened. Oh, yeah. I don't want to spoil anything for you.
Well, I'll have to go watch it.
You're going to have to watch it. We're going to have to watch it.
I'll have to get on a streak and watch it.
Yes. I'm telling you, you will love it. But
all right.
Like I said, you can't turn away from it. So you're like almost imprisoned by it. And then they did like a follow-up where they watched, like they had like some of the cast members come on there. And that was even entertaining. Mm-hmm. So I can't remember what that's called, but it's like After Tiger King or something like that. Tiger King, the follow-up or something like that. But anyways, I'm getting a little sidetracked here. But so it's post-pandemic. Mm-hmm. Or actually, well, it's post-pandemic because it's after the initial hit. That summer of 2020, what did you do? How did you prepare? You said you did some weight training somewhere?
Yes. So for my travel team, we had to join a Zoom and work out together.
Oh, on Zoom?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So that was his way of making sure we were like getting our things done, making sure that we were still in shape and not sitting on the couch all day.
Oh, yeah.
Because, everyone was kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And we also didn't have to go to a public place and wear a mask, which was great because the masks were horrible for me.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah, couldn't stand it.
And we would do that twice a week. Join your Zoom and do your workout. Like, if you didn't join your Zoom and do your workout, it was bad news, Wow. And then I don't know how it came about or what was going on, but we were fortunate enough to play maybe 4 tournaments in Newberry at the turf fields. I don't know the exact name of the complex, but we were fortunate enough to be able to play some games. It was rough. It was very rough because there was just so much going on.
Right.
my coach was very hectic at the time. He was stressed out. Like, he didn't want to get in trouble or, like, you know, break any federal law, because it's a federal law to not wear your mask in public at certain places.
Right.
So we just had to make sure we were very smart about everything we did. Like, we weren't really able to go in social gatherings because we were such a big group. So we had to find other things to do. Like, we would go to the tournament and then all come together and, like, have a cookout, you know, which was great. It was awesome because I was still able to play softball and still able to be close to my travel team.
Right.
I loved every single girl on that team.
Yeah.
It was awesome. They were all great. We were all pretty much committed to a school at the time. I think there was like 2 or 3 that didn't go to school, not because they weren't able to, but just because they chose to do other things,
had
you know.
other plans.
Yes, had other plans. But yeah, I mean, that's all we pretty much did to stay in shape. My college coach, my assistant coach, Kelly, she sent workouts to do as well, and we'd have to log it and send it back to her. And then it was pretty much like prepare on your own and be ready for the fall because we're going straight forward.
Yeah.
And another thing was COVID. I guess this is a pro to COVID because all the girls that were there the previous year were able to come back. So it was the same team.
Yeah, they got Carson mentioned this. Colleges got you could get another year.
Yes, another year of eligibility.
Absolutely. That's
which technically is like a red shirt, you know,
like
but it's
like
not a red
senior,
shirt.
Like
yes,
that,
which was awesome. Like, I got the extra year as well, which was cool. I mean, it was great because all the girls I seen and met when I went on my visit were on the team. You know, they were basically all the same. I think they lost like a pitcher and maybe a middle infielder. Gotcha. That's all they lost. Everybody else came back. So it was awesome. And the previous year before COVID hit, they were on the road to nationals too.
Right.
You know, they were going to nationals, but then COVID hit. So I think that was a positive to COVID. Those girls were really blessed to be able to play with the same group of girls again and, like, you know, have a shot or have a run at nationals again.
Right.
Which was awesome.
That's cool. Thanks for watching part 1 of this 2-part segment. Stay tuned for part 2.